How about if you
Okay,
this?
we're ready to talk. Hi everybody, welcome to another program of Yeshiva Classroom. Here we are, Yeshiva Classroom, this is the telephone number, and we're here every week at the same time. So today we have a rather unique program in that we have an author, actually he's a co-author of a book. It's going to be a very interesting book. This is a sequel to a earlier novel, which was published by Simon & Schuster, and she's a very intelligent lady from Cleveland, Ohio originally, and she's a Chabad person, right?
Yeah.
Right. She's a follower of the Chabad Hasidim. And she has a very interesting book. It's all about these women who have, actually it's a sequel to the previous one, but it's very interesting because all the women in this book, 6 in total I believe, 8, there are 8, and she will describe these challenges that the women present. And maybe it'll be fit your mode, so to speak. But let's hear what Mrs. Gottlieb has to say about some of the characters in the book.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This book was written over a period of time, and it developed as it went along. The characters in the book are real people, and they have different challenges that they resolve more or less in the book itself. It reads like a novel, people tell me, and that was what it was supposed to do, but we do cover some pretty interesting and somewhat serious issues. Even though it's called Last Day Laughter, they're all resolved, almost all resolved in a very happy way. The first issue that comes up is a woman who is so happily married to her non-Jewish husband. They really thought they had a lot in common, and they did when they first got married. They had children. Children started school.
I get it. Just say a little louder and slower. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Children started school, and she began to feel that she needed something else to do. She became a preschool teacher for a young rabbi and rebbitzin who moved across the street from them.
In other words, the neighbor had a classroom across the street from this woman. And what town is this in?
It was in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, this happens all over the place, though. Very many young couples, especially in Chabad, they start a preschool when they move into a neighborhood. And she was very happy working there, and she began to do some of the things that the preschool did, like making challahs, and she began to light Shabbos candles, and pretty soon she was very interested in keeping Shabbos. Of course, the rabbi and the rebbitzin invited her family over for Shabbos. They had some lovely Shabbos meals there.
A little slower and a little louder. Thank you, sir. I got to take orders from the director, you know.
Got it. So she became more and more interested in Judaism. And also the community was growing. The little Chabad house became a bigger Chabad house. And her children were also interested in the things that she was doing, and pretty soon they started a Hebrew school. Her husband was very interested in the Hebrew school. He liked the way the children were learning. He came from a home that believed in God, and he liked the fact that his children were giving tzedakah, giving to the pushka.
This is the husband of the Jewish lady. The husband
Right.
is not Jewish.
The husband's not Jewish. But he's very happy to see her become more Jewish and more observant.
How old a woman is this you're talking about?
At that time, she was in her 20s.
In her 20s. Okay.
So, and this progresses over a number of years until the children decide that they would like to go to Hebrew school, to a yeshiva. So he wound up sending his son to a yeshiva, and the daughter also went to a girls' school in New York. And the family is becoming pretty observant. The wife decided she wanted to start keeping Taras HaMishpacha, the laws of marriage, the family laws, and she was a little disappointed to find out that it really didn't apply to her because she was married to someone who was not Jewish. little by little, she began to see that she really couldn't stay married to her husband if he was not Jewish. So they separated for a while, but she was sincerely hoping that he would become a Jew.
Right.
He
wouldn't convert. He didn't want to consider
he
conversion.
absolutely considered conversion, and
Yeah.
his friends said it was a great idea. Some of his friends changed churches when they got married, so he figured it wouldn't be such a big deal. But then he found out that it's not such a simple procedure. Meanwhile, he becomes aware of the 7 Noahide laws, which are part of the Torah actually, and they're given to non-Jews in the Torah. So he began to see that those laws were very comfortable for him, and he was keeping those laws practically as it was, and he was interested in learning more about them. But in terms of keeping all the laws of the Torah, he would do it. He would do it to stay married to his wife, but if he did it, he realized
He what?
he would do it.
Yeah.
But if he did it, he just wouldn't be himself. And it was a big problem for him and a challenge for her. And how it's resolved, well, you can read the book and find out.
And this is the book, and that's let me put it up closer. And this is the co-author, sequel to the first book, was published by Simon & Schuster, had a great acclaim, and as a result, a sequel was put out on these 7 to 8 women. Now, you want to tell us about, I lived in Far Rockaway for a while, and there was a ger. It says in the Torah, we should walk in the ways of Hashem. We should walk in the ways of God, right? And try to emulate all the characteristics that we learn out about God. And of course, there's the 13 midos of kindliness that that God described Himself as, and we try to emulate those qualities. And in addition, it also says you should do justice to the widow and the orphan. Do justice to the widow and the orphan, and love the ger. And love the ger. So that's one of the mitzvahs of the Torah. Just a few that I'm bringing down. But actually, in the Torah, it says the widow and the orphan do justice to. Do not take advantage of them. And to the ger, a convert, you should love the ger. And it says many times you should love the ger, the person who sincerely converts. And I want you to know that in Far Rockaway, many years ago, there was a Gentile family, young family, they were in their 30s, early 30s. They had several children, and they all became very observant and really Hasidish, and you name it, they did it. And then a few years after this conversion, I saw a printout in a Sunday paper where this fellow regressed and returned back to the Gentile ways, and he described all the lives of the very ultra orthodox. He described them, putting scorn and it was sort of like an undercover reporter, but he got the whole story from living it and taking everyone's feelings and bringing him and loving him, taking care of him. So it's very important that before a person considers converting to Judaism, that he think it out carefully, because if a person converted and then left the fold, he is still responsible for the commitment he made as a Jew. And so he will be severely reprimanded after 120 years, because that's the name of the game. Name of the game is to get a good place in the next world. And this world is, like it says many places, prepare yourself in the anteroom so that you may enjoy the main feast. So this was given to the Jewish people, as was the Torah, the Bible, the Jewish Bible. We only have one Bible, a Jewish Bible, and that was given to the Jewish people. It was given to the Jewish people. Yeah, I'm the Lord your God. That's the first commandment. I'm the Lord, first of the 10 commandments. You know, the Gentiles taking all this, and no one can stop them from taking it. But you have to realize that these instructions were given to the Jewish people, and there are promises that we should, promises that we're obligated to fulfill as Jewish people, right? Even those that were not there at the time the covenant was given. In 29:13 in Deuteronomy, it said, these are for, this covenant is made with the people that are standing in front of me. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, said that. This covenant is made with the people who are standing in front of me and the people who are not standing here, implying that all future generations are sons of the covenant that our forefathers made. And you will say, well, listen, I mean, I wasn't there, I didn't do it, I didn't have any knowledge. Point is, every day when we say the Emes V'Yatzav after Shema Yisrael, we affirm the covenant that we made with God. So that was a time that you, as an adult, can reaffirm. Now, is it something that she's going to talk more about this Last Day Laughter book, Last Day Laughter, by Zakatinsky and Gottlieb. But I also found out that she is a very unique person, and everybody's unique in their own way, that's for sure. But she also has adopted two Down syndrome young adults. Down syndrome young adults. And maybe you want to tell us a little bit about them and whatever.
Well, of course, they weren't young adults when we adopted them. They were infants. Connie came to us when she was only 9 days old, and Connie was 9 days old when we adopted her. David was 4.5 months. And they've grown up to be exceptional young people. I'm very, very proud of them. David, in fact, has gone to the national parks and locally as well, and he tells people about the 7 Noahide laws, which is something that's pertinent, I think, to what you were saying before, because people who are not Jewish are also seeking God in their own way. They're a little different. It's a little different here. People have their own. There's 2 types of neshamas. It's brought down in Chassidus. 2 types of souls: a Jewish soul and a non-Jewish soul. But they're to work together. And God decided who gets the Jewish soul and who gets the non-Jewish soul. But in any case, any soul is looking for God to some extent. So for the non-Jews, they really don't know what to do with themselves sometimes. They need their 7 mitzvahs for their souls, just like we need our 613 mitzvahs. So that's one of the things that my son David likes to do, is to pass out 7 mitzvah, 7 commandment cards for the Noahides, those people who are not Jewish. And it's to be worked hand in hand. The non-Jews and the Jews in the time of Mashiach will be all serving God in their own way. And we're preparing for that time now. We're preparing now for the Messiah. So my children are very aware of that. And I think everybody in this generation is aware of that.
It's important, you know, after hearing about Mrs. Gottlieb and her family, the 2 Down syndrome young adults in their early 20s, I made mention of the fact that I have a very close friend who lives in West Hempstead who has adopted also Down syndrome children. Right, observant, a very, very personable young man. He's an attorney, and he lives in West Hempstead. So I want to make a connection over there, and who knows what it'll lead to. And before we go any further, I want them to, if you don't mind, give them your phone number, because you never know it may be min hashamayim, meant to be that someone is listening in this program has a connection with a Down syndrome child or wants to connect with Mrs. Gottlieb. So maybe you could give them your number slowly?
Maybe it would be better if they would contact you and you could contact me.
We don't want to know. Well, listen, our number's here all the time, and we don't stay no ceremony. Anybody wants to call about anything about stronger ties to Judaism or wants to have a private Seder. Seder meaning a private time where we can learn one-on-one. Now, when we speak about learning, there is a very touchy subject with me, because I feel that the synagogues, and this includes Hasidic and Orthodox observant synagogues, these rabbis who have adult education programs, have over the years failed miserably. Let's face it. They've come up with all kind of topical, catchy phrases to come and to listen to their lecture, right? But if you follow their programs, after a while, they usually start after the holidays, the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. After those holidays, they usually start with their adult education program, and after a short while, several weeks, whatever, they're folded. Why? Because they don't have congregants. Chabad, on the other hand, they have a series. They have maybe 4 or 5 lectures on a particular subject, so they won't lose you, so to speak. But the time that a person has to continue on to that old method of constantly droning to an audience that's drowsy after a hard day's work is failure. And it's just unfortunate that all these synagogues, and I'm talking about Orthodox, I'm not talking about Reform and Conservative or whatever, they want to make themselves a denomination. There's no such thing as denominations in Judaism. No such thing as denominations in Judaism. All they have to do is say, I believe in God, and that's it. But they don't believe in God. They believe in the God of evolution. So the point is, we're getting a little tangential here, but the point is, there are basically 3 concepts. They try to wiggle their way into Israel, and the Israeli population is only 3% of the total 7 million, 6.5 million Jews who have any feeling for Reform and Conservative, all these other movements, right? Cultural movements, I call them. And they try to wiggle their way in, and they want to say, well, we need a place next to the Kotel, next to the Wailing Wall to pray, because we're different than the Orthodox, right? So we're different from them. We need a separate place. But they don't come. You go into the temples on Saturday. They're empty, completely void of people. And they want a place next to the Wailing Wall, and that they want to pray, but they don't say who they want to pray to. I mean, they don't believe in God. They don't believe in the God creator of heaven and earth. So why should they have a place? And they're all upset about it. With all their money, they think they can buy whatever they want. They have a bunch of gigantic buildings because they copy them from the Gentiles who have these monstrosity churches, and so they want to be similar, and they have their hashkafa, their outlook is basically it moves with the wind. Today they believe in this, and they pick out things that they feel is unimportant, throw it away. It's like a restaurant. I'll come in here, this I like, kosher, got USDA, we don't need it, throw it away. That's it. That's Judaism? Okay, look.
I think we really have to stress the unity between Jews. All Jews are part of one body. And this is one of the things that we need to be aware of and that we need to really learn about. Chabad is teaching this all the time. It's really the very basic thing in the Torah, that Jews are one body, and when we get along together and we work together, and everybody has such an important part to play. We can't do without any single Jew. Every single Jew that was ever created, and it's certainly every Jew that's here in this world now, we need them. We need them to be a people. Am Yisrael includes every single Jew. It's very important that we work together and learn together. And it's very good that you mentioned.
When you say learn together, the Chabad is not going into their synagogues, or will they have programs with these fifth columnists?
Okay, but anybody who's interested in learning, there is the JLI programs, the Jewish Learning Institute. Just go online, Google JLI. They'll put you in touch with the Chabad house nearest you that will be able to help you enroll in one of these programs. They're very interesting, they're very up to date, they deal with topics that are of interest to everybody in a very engaging way. And I think it's worthwhile for anybody to give it a try. JLI, from Chabad.
Okay.
That's my pitch.
Yeah. The point is, we got tangential. We really wanted to get onto the fact of adult education and the reason it's failed, and not to just criticize, but put forth a viable plan that I'm going to do it right at this moment. And we're going to get back to your book, that's for sure. Right, because she came all the way
from... this book actually deals, and it's the basis of it is women learning Torah. That's how this group got together. Sarah had a group every Tuesday, lunch and learn, and many women would come to her house and have a delicious lunch and learn the parsha of the week, and found the relevance of that parsha in their lives. That's how it all got started. And our first book, Around Sarah's Table, dealt with that concept that the Torah that we learn during the week has relevance to our lives. In fact, the Frierdiker Rebbe said that when we should live with the times. We should live with the times, and he was speaking about the Torah portion of the week. Everybody looking into the Torah portion of the week will find something relevant, something useful and essential that will help them in their lives that week, because the Torah is written for every person.
Now, we don't leave our last phrases low, because the camera won't pick it up. Okay. Now, the point I want to make is, I'm going to direct this out to the non-Hasidic world. Mrs. Gottlieb is from Cleveland, Ohio. Originally, and their record they sent the Indians, what their record is?
My father would have known.
They broke all records.
What?
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, this is pre-recorded. I don't know what's going to happen until they get to the World Series. But they won 23 straight ball games without a loss.
The Indians? Oh, my father would be rooting for them. He was a big Indian fan.
Well, there's a guy who used to play drums at the games from Cleveland. The guy went. Anyway, they broke the record.
Wow.
23 straight. But this is being recorded in the end of September, so they may even go further. But listen, the Indians. Yeah. So where were we? Back to. We wanted to say adult education. And here's the thing. You see, it's not so much listening and listening and listening, but it's listening and repeating. Listening and repeating what you learned, and gradually you accumulate a great deal of knowledge because you imbibed it, right? And then you keep on growing. I came from Delaware, and I came to the Yeshiva, and he said, here's a book, this is the Gemara, go learn Gemara. I mean, I never looked into the Gemara. I knew nothing about the Gemara or anything. What am I supposed to know? and they had no art scrolls.
Right. It's
Yeah.
before the
So
English
what I
translation.
get, I got nothing out of it. I mean, relatively speaking. But this was the Chofetz Chaim's method. This is from my Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Rabbi Jacob and Rabbi Judah London, and mentioning of the deceased name is for bracha, because it says in the Gemara that the lips of the deceased move when you speak Torah in their name. The lips of the deceased move. So, it's nostalgic, but the point I wanted to bring out is that today, you see, I have what they call the 613 plan. I'm going to put this in a book that's in the process of being published on Amazon. And basically, 613 means, basically, that number means the 613 mitzvahs, that general categories of mitzvahs. Of course, we can't all do all of them because temple is not even here to begin with, but I'm using that 613 number, play on words, play on numbers, as follows. You see, right? The main thing is Talmud. Now, Talmud Gemara. The Talmud is basically the Mishnah and Gemara compiled into one book, and it's called the Talmud. And what we believed in was that you start off 6 minutes, break the 613 into 6 minutes before davening every day. 6 minutes before davening, whoever wants to come that time, the rabbi speaks 2, 3, 4 words on the Talmud. Right? 6 minutes, that's it. No drawn out speeches. 6 minutes. The student in the paper book Art Scrolls English translation of the Talmud is expected, or he should obligate himself to try and review those 6 minutes in at least 13 minutes. 6:13. So this way he can try to review what was said, right? And he go review it a few times. Now, Gemara is very difficult. It doesn't make sense. Why was it written in a difficult language? Because, for one thing, the Gentiles couldn't plagiarize it, right? They couldn't plagiarize it. They plagiarized our Holy Torah, and they took things out of it, and they even made chapters out of the Bible, out of our Torah. That doesn't even make sense. They just put the chapters. The printers, the Christian printers, made it. That sounds like a good place to make a chapter. And they made a chapter because the Jews would not allow printing presses when they first came out. So it became in use. If you have to go anytime, let me know, because we can excuse you, because I know it's a long drive, whatever. But anyway. So what were we talking about? So start. Yeah. So the Gemara is that going to make sense to you, right? And that's one of the reasons why they didn't even try. The Christian printers didn't even try to translate it, because they didn't know what was coming off. They couldn't translate the words, and the words, but it didn't make sense. And that's what the purpose of the Mishnah and the Gemara is. It counts. It's an explanation of the written Bible, but it couches those explanations in all kinds of everyday trappings of the 6th century Common Era, basically, and all kinds of stories, all couched in is explanation of the written Bible. Now, for instance. It says in the written Bible, it says you should slaughter as I command you. 12 in chapter Deuteronomy 12 verse 21. You should slaughter as I command you. Talking about kosher eating, and it's as I command you. It wasn't commanded. It didn't get into details of how you slaughter an animal, a kosher animal in the written Bible. But you go to the Talmud. What's the condition of the animal, the health condition, right? 4 days before we slaughter the animal, we have to examine it for any trephis or any disease that's going to put him to death, right? And that's why we do slichos, 4 days. We have to examine ourselves 4 days before Rosh Hashanah, make sure that we are kosher when we enter the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah. 4 days before, we say preparatory prayers to make sure that we're online with the Rosh Hashanah, right? So 12:21, kosher. Now in the Talmud, what's the health of the animal? Are there any physical defects in it after it's slaughtered, before it's slaughtered? What kind of knife do you use? What's the condition of the knife? Can it be with nicks? No. Where's the place of slaughter? All these detailed information are in the Talmud. So it's indispensable. I mean, Rosh Hashanah, when this is being shown, it'll be after Rosh Hashanah, but Rosh Hashanah says in the Torah, I think it's in Numbers 29:1, it says over there, it's a day of blowing, holy convocation. It's a day of blowing. You should do no malach on that day. But I mean, does it talk in detail about what the day is, or Yom Kippur? It's a day of affliction. So how do you afflict yourself with stripes or lashes but the Talmud says by not eating on that day, not eating or drinking. Okay, we got a little tangential, and I just want to conclude a little bit with the 613. We're going to bring back Mrs. Gottlieb, who's going to talk about her book, where you can get it. But basically, we want to say that the 613 is, you see these people looking at the Talmud, it's so boring. I mean, but you never know what the next page is going to do. You don't know what